All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar. We're going to be discussing what agents want from carriers, MGAs, and wholesalers. I'm John Yarbrough, Appulate's MGA and carrier specialist. I'm going to be putting my contact information in the chat section. So if you do need to reach out to me, feel free to do that. I also am going to go over some quick webinar logistics. Everyone's going to be muted today. So on the little side panel, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to put that into the chat or ask that question, and I'll be monitoring that chat and question box as we go through today's webinar. All right, so first of all, who is Appulate? Obviously I'm from Appulate, and I'm not going to go totally in today on a demo and everything of our system. Today's focus is on a survey that we did of our agents and understanding what agents are looking for from their MGAs, carriers, wholesalers, any market that they may be submitting to for quotes. But I do want to give you a little bit of background about who we are. So I wrote up this little thing. I'll be sending out this slide deck today, along with an email and recording of this session. So if you missed anything, feel free to check that out. And again, as we go through today's webinar on the side panel, feel free to ask any questions as you may have them, so you don't have to wait till the very end. But anyways, let's go through this. So who is Appulate? So Appulate, we're a technology company. We've been around for 16 years. We've developed a submission management system. That's what I call it. It's really an ecosystem where agents interact with their markets. And this is about 80% of agents in the country. These are all retail independent insurance agents. And they use our system to quote with their markets, submit business, and move data directly from their agency management systems or core PDFs directly into our system with a click of a button. Super cool process, and I'll go into a little bit more about the stuff we do later on. I mentioned we've got this ecosystem, and this is really going to play a lot into what we're talking about today. Creating a distribution platform for your products is exponentially becoming more important. So understanding what these agents are looking for, what kind of expectations they have, and how some of these companies like Appulate are responding to that, and what we're building out is really what we're going to be talking about. So this should give you a little bit of a background on who Appulate is. Again, if you want to ask any questions, or if you want to schedule some time on my calendar at some point, go through the system. We can certainly do a demo, or I might be able to bring up some stuff later on in the webinar towards the end. But we're going to be going right into some of these survey results. Let me move to this next slide. One of the most important things about these surveys that we do, which we do annually, to me, is that we've got this massive network of insurance agents. So there's a lot of companies that are popping up that are trying to create these distribution platforms, creating platforms to put your programs on, automated underwriting and quoting processes. Appulate's been around the longest. So we've been around for about 16 years. We've got about 280,000 retail agent users of our system. That's about 35,000 agencies, which is about 80% of all of them in the country. They all use it in different kinds of ways. That's a question I get quite a bit. It really depends on the markets that are available, but kind of like if you go to a shopping mall or Expedia or one of these places where you go in looking for something. You don't go to every single different site when you go to Expedia, for instance. You don't go to American Airlines and United and all these other places. You go to Expedia, try to interact with all of these different markets all in one place, and that's kind of what Appulate does. Currently, we've got about 100,000 of these agents subscribed to email lists where we put out really good content about how to use our system, what kind of markets we have available, all of those kind of things. So we try to put a lot of resources into opening up greater distribution opportunities, which we can certainly get into a little bit more later. But currently, we have about 18,000 submissions per month, 140% average new market selection on a pretty consistent basis, which basically what that means is an agent will go into our system, select a market to work with, and every time they do that, we track that progress. And 240% average submission count increase. So again, there's this concept of being able to put your products where these agents are. These agents are certainly in Appulate quite a bit. So being able to just have your products accessible and be a little bit more aggressive on the marketing side and distribution does make a big difference. So this is a little bit of background. Again, today is not all about Appulate. Today is on what the survey is that we did. So every year we conduct these annual surveys of these agents. We send it out to 280,000 agents and ask them some pretty basic questions. Really, we're trying to understand the following, which is, what are agents looking for from their markets? That's the title of today's webinar. So that's one of my favorite questions on here. What lines of business are you trying to write? What lines of business are you currently writing, and what lines would you like to write? Same with classes of business. How much premium are you writing? How many submissions are you trying to process? Renewals, that kind of thing. How much time could we save you, or how much time are we saving you, especially for those who are using Appulate? And how can market partners better distribute the products to you? So we don't ask them that flat out. We'll ask other kind of questions to collect some really good data around these topics to try to better guide expectations when we're working with different carriers, MGAs, and wholesalers, and also better allocate our resources. Okay. So the first question that I brought up, and again, this is kind of my favorite one, which is simply, what do you want from your carrier or MGA? And that's really how we asked it. We gave them a lot of options. I believe they were able to even put in their own options as well. So we collected all of this data. And what I've got here is an accumulation of all the top picks from over the last few years of these thousands of agents that responded to us, and put them in order. So the first one you'll notice on this screen is instant quoting capabilities. This is huge. So a lot of folks right now are talking about API distribution. I've done a couple of videos on that recently, and I've got a webinar. My next webinar will be on APIs. What are they, and how you distribute them? But really what it comes down to is technology is evolving in such a way now where it's becoming much more cost effective to build out technology that allows you to put your quotes on a platform like Appulate, or even distribute them with many different types of partners similar to Appulate, where agents are able to go in, put in their data, and return instant quotes in real time. A lot of carriers are building this out. A lot of MGAs are building this out. And one of the coolest parts about that is an MGA or a wholesaler is often able to take advantage of those APIs in different ways, depending on how that platform is set up. So in Appulate, it's that way, where we've worked with hundreds of different MGAs and carriers, and we're gradually starting to see more and more need for API connectivity because agents are looking for that instant quoting capability. However, I'll pop down to number 3, which is fast quote turnaround. So a lot of wholesalers and MGAs that I work with may not have the resources to build that out, or this is just not part of their immediate roadmap. But by being able to put technology, set it up in such a way where you're able to get at least fast quote turnaround, I think agents are very happy with that. We've had a number of partners who have said, well, look, if I could just put this together so that I can get the data I need, underwrite this on the back end side, and use this technology to automate some of these processes like the underwriting, the signatures, being able to move data back and forth so that my team doesn't have to manually enter all of these submissions and filter out submissions that don't fit our appetite guide, that kind of thing. That'll save us a lot of time. We should be able to return a quote back in a day or two, and agents are perfectly happy with that. So that is 2 of the top 3 right there, is just fast quote turnaround, basically. Number 2, competitive rates and quotes. That's a no-brainer. Agents want competitive rates and quotes, and they want better commission, which is number 4. So some of this is about cost. Agents see it that way. When I talk to different markets, they have different priorities as far as not just price and commission, but better service for the insured, more extensive policies, more niche programs, and all of that kind of stuff does much better in a distribution platform like this, because an agent's able to go in, see all their options, and kind of weigh it out, pros and cons of better programs, better pricing, and of course commission. I'm not surprised that commission is in the top 4 though. Number 5, online questionnaire. This is critical to really the whole thing of trying to create a faster quote turnaround. But I have online questionnaire and shorter questionnaire, which is number 8. Both of those things I think work very well in conjunction. Not only do agents want an online questionnaire, but they're also looking for a way to minimize the number of questions that they have to answer. And there's very effective ways of doing that. Appulate, for instance, one of the ways we do that is we have created a dynamic questionnaire which adapts the questionnaire based on the information that they put in. So if they put in a certain class code for workers' comp, it's going to ask them specific questions about that class code and any other underwriting questions that may pertain to that, pulling from ACORD forms, supplemental forms, proprietary forms, all of that stuff. We can really throw it away, digitize all of those questions that are needed, and let them know exactly what's required, which also elevates the level of transparency you can offer to an agent, which is really, really big. So if an agent can go into a system like ours or into your system and right away understand if, hey, this is going to fit their appetite or not. I know exactly what kind of questions need to be answered. I don't have to guess. I don't have to go back and forth with an underwriter. I can do all of this right here, right now, and then submit this for a quote. That's a major advantage from the agent side, and they're able to likely go out to more markets because of that. So I say that because what I try to push really hard is a standardized ecosystem, which is what Appulate is. And an agent's able to go in there and work with more markets. So they're more likely to select you as a market to work with, which is really, really cool. Again, that kind of goes back to what I was talking about a shopping mall. If you go to a mall to pick out clothes, you're more likely to pop into a couple other stores. And we know this, just statistically this works, and we've been able to prove statistically that markets in our system are more likely to see submissions for this very same reason. So a lot of folks still build out their own platforms, they create their own stuff in all different places. Agents, I think, are starting to pull away from that a little bit. If they can go into a system like Appulates or Vertafore or whoever else is doing this kind of thing and interact with all their markets in one place, it's a lot easier than having to go to multiple different sites and rekey that same data in every single time. However, Appulate has created a bridge that does allow you to move data right from our system into your portal. So if you do have one, we can still connect and you don't necessarily have to build out an entire API. So the next one I've got here is automated underwriting. I think I've touched on that already. So all of this is kind of similar. Automated underwriting is certainly possible. Very, very simple to do in our system, almost out of the box. We just need to understand what kind of questions that you have, what your requirements are, what kind of things are deal breakers, what things are approved or may need manual underwriting, for certain classes of business and that sort of thing, or different answers to certain questions. But we can respond in real time to that agent's entries, and we can ask them additional questions or collect additional forms and that kind of thing. Quote on a single platform, I've talked about that. Shorter questionnaire, that's really important. I'll skip to number 10 real quick and then come back to number 9. But number 10 is ACORD data intake, no manual entry. And this kind of goes to what I was just saying. A lot of people are moving away from forms completely and altogether. We're able to digitize these processes, even in a simple way where you build out a questionnaire on your site. And a lot of folks have been doing that for a long time. But now we can build these highly automated dynamic questionnaires that work together with different elements in that system to give the agent real-time indications and all of that. But Appulate's taken that a step further. Over the last 16 years, we've built out the ability for agents to submit into our system or directly into your portal from any ACORD form, any version of any ACORD form, and every single agency management system out there. And that part is really, really huge. There are a lot of folks that over the last 5 years have built out these ACORD form parsing and data extraction tools. That's awesome. But nobody's done it from agency management systems like Appulate has. And right now, about 70 to 80% of agents out there are using these agency management systems. A lot of times they use them to create these ACORD forms, and then they'll send in that ACORD form. And that's a lot of weird, clunky steps that we've just kind of gotten used to. So if we can build a direct bridge from their agency management system directly into your system or directly into Appulate where they're interacting with you, then there's no manual entry either for the agent or really for you or your underwriters. So this is a huge piece of technology that's becoming very quickly a standard in the industry, both with markets and with agents. So I said I'd pop back to number 9, which is personal touch service. This one's really big too. Every agent that I've ever talked to has mentioned this at some point where they go, yeah, we love all this technology. This is so awesome. This is great. But I'm not going to stop hearing from my carrier or MGA. Am I still going to be able to talk to them and get service and ask questions and all of that? And the answer is absolutely, right? So if we can reallocate some resources where instead of having a CSR who sits there and does data entry all day, and we can eliminate that task altogether with a click of a button, then you're now able to have more resources to spend more time servicing these agents, servicing the insureds. All of that stuff is still what they're looking for. And I would make an argument that that's even more important with wholesalers and MGAs, especially if they're not going to try to go directly to a carrier, they're able to go to someone like you who's got a lot more experience with this line of business or this class of business that your program is all about, and they want to be able to have that time with you. And a lot of times folks have struggled with that balance, but if we can take out some of the difficult manual processes that you guys have, you should be able to free up plenty of time to do that. And just a reminder, if you guys have any questions at any time, feel free to put that in there. If I miss something, skip something, I won't think you're rude. Throw a question in there, throw something in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer that. So let's go to the next slide here. So which lines of business do you write on a regular basis? A few of these slides now, I'm not going to go through every single thing. I just wanted to put this up here so that I could show you guys what we collected from these agents to understand what they're writing. And this is very cool because, again, this is all part of, I think, guiding expectations. When I talk to someone, they say, how well do you think that this program is going to do? I pull this slide up and we take a look at it and figure out where you're at on it. And a lot of times we're surprised to see what is in those top 30. Well, what I was surprised to see is the spread. So it doesn't really drop off like some of these other slides that I'll show you where they truly have a top 20 that they're interested in, and everything else is not as prevalent. But this is pretty spread out. Agents seem to be writing a little bit of everything. So if you're an MGA and you've got the ability to specialize in excess liability, for instance, or inland marine or something like that, we've seen a lot of folks come forward with those kinds of programs, building out some really cool questionnaires and API-driven rate quote buying workflows within our system, where we're able to quote very quickly with those markets, and agents are very happy about that. So again, I'm going to be sending this out, so you guys are more than welcome to have this information. The next one I've got here is classes written. So this is cool. I've split this up into two different columns, which is basically the left side is classes written. So this is what they're currently writing. And on the right-hand side are classes that they would like to write. So this is very cool because if we're trying to put together a program and maybe do some kind of marketing or do webinars or something for these agents, we want to get a good sense of what they're actually doing so that we can reach out to them properly. And this is one of those where it seems to drop off pretty quickly. So it's important to pay attention to this. And this doesn't mean that, hey, if you do gaming or something, that this isn't going to work necessarily. It's just that a lot more people may be writing transportation, which is number one. And if you're able to do that, or maybe you've got an advantage with your program over other markets, we want to probably push that pretty hard. So we spend a lot of time looking at this data to really understand who these agents are and give them better resources to information. And that's another critical piece of this. So there's a lot of really, really awesome technology out there that does a lot of amazing things. But in my opinion, there's really two parts to this. You can build an incredible piece of technology, but no one will use it because we're not reaching out to them, we're not educating them, we're not inspiring them to use this technology. And a lot of times it's really market and program driven. So Appulate could have this amazing technology platform, but if we don't have good programs on it and we're not reaching out to these agents in specific ways and understanding what they're trying to do, we're really going to get nowhere. And if you have an amazing program, but you don't have a good distribution platform for it, or you've got a clunky workflow, having people do manual entry going page after page to just end up finding out that maybe they're not able to write that agent is much less likely to come back. And we've seen that people have missed out on some major opportunities by not having good technology in place, where it could have just been a very easy thing for the agent to do while investigating new markets to work with. So I think this is very interesting data. And again, you guys are more than welcome to this. So premium statistics, again, nothing to really go too far into on here. I just wanted to put up as much information as I could. We have a ton of it, so I find this very relevant. I'm sure this is very interesting to certain folks. This is not surprising to other folks, but nonetheless, I have this information here, and I think that there's a very good distribution of different types of premium, and we certainly see that coming through our system on a pretty regular basis, all different kinds of things. And yeah, so I'm gonna go to the next slide. Another question we asked the agents was basically, how much time are we saving you? And so what I did is I combined that with a question of how many submissions are you sending in, to get an idea of what kind of time savings we're actually saving an agent. I'm almost done building a calculator to determine how much time and money is saved for MGAs and carriers. That's much more complicated, but I think if we want to spend some time on the phone, feel free to throw some time on my calendar. We can use that to go through and figure out what it looks like, and it's pretty impressive. So the average submission count per month per agent is about 40. So average time saved per agent with Appulate, and we use Appulate because we know what we can do here. It's about 37 minutes per submission. That's conservative. I think the average was more of like 40, 45 minutes. But I used all the data that was there. So 40 submissions, 37 minutes each, average time saved per agent per month. That ends up being about 25 hours. And based on the average salary of an insurance agent, that ends up being about $7,000 per month. That's massively huge, but I don't think that that's surprising. At first it is, and then I started thinking about it and all the manual entry that's done and all of the back and forth. Prior, when I was an underwriter, that was my biggest frustration, and it's why we partnered with Appulate and I started working with them. It drove me crazy how much stuff we had to do going back and forth. And I did niche programs and workers' comp and PEO type stuff, and there was a tremendous amount of just gathering information. And had I been able to have what we have now and put that in place then, I would have been able to save it a tremendous amount of time. And I see that with a lot of our MGA wholesale partners, especially, where they're saving time on both the intake of all of that data and the output of that. So you can imagine you could easily just double this number if that's the kind of workflow process you have. And especially for carriers, it's almost 100%. I mean, if you were able to put an API into a system and have it almost completely self-service like that, it's very rare that you'd have to go in and work with the agent in that way at all, in case it's a very specific thing. So it's not just every single submission or trying to filter out every single one of these, but we can flip it from 80% of it being manual to 80% of it being automated, and that's a huge amount of time savings, and that certainly translates to dollars, and it makes you a lot more lean and a lot more mean. So let me keep moving. So what is the workflow with Appulate? So I wanted to kind of show you two of the options that we have when we're talking with markets. It's usually a little bit more complicated than this. Everyone's a little bit different, but I try to isolate it down to really two different processes. The first one is what we call A to X, which is basically Accord to XML. So we're able to, again, work with every single agency management system, every single Accord form. So regardless of where an agent starts, if they want to start manually in our system, they're able to do that. They can start right from their agency management system, wherever, hit a button, and use Appulate as a data bridge to move that data directly into your portal. So if you have an agent-facing portal, if you already have questionnaires built out and you're not really trying to completely redo everything, or you've already built that technology out, we are able to connect our systems together in a very nice way, so agents can still go into our system that may be using it, which are a ton of them, find you as a market, select you, and when they hit a button, they'll get launched over to your site, instantly logging them in with single sign-on, and all of that data converts into XML data, which you should be able to ingest, and it's all mapped out beautifully inside your portal waiting for them when they land there. That's a great workflow for folks who already have a really good workflow process. For those who may want an upgrade, or they're not, they don't have that kind of process, we have that built as well. A lot of agents use it. As a matter of fact, a lot of Companies that have built these out use ours as well. And that's kind of where APIs come in. But folks like AmTrust, employers, a lot of these larger carriers that we work with, which I'll be happy to show you where you can find that, they actually still put their products right within our system, because again, the less amount of screens they have to go through or jumping around, the better. It's a lot easier to create something like an API or build in all of this functionality into one place, and just allow them to go right from their agency management system directly into ours, and be faced with appetite indications immediately based on the data that's been uploaded. The smart questionnaire we were talking about, that's dynamic, supplemental form creation, which is always happening in the background, whether they know it or not. So if you are a wholesaler and you need a bunch of supplementals created, all of the questions that they're going to be seeing are pulling from those if needed. Rating indications, if you're able to do that. Appointment processes are completely automated in our system, including e-signatures, both for the insured and for the agent. And then, of course, instant quote and bind, if you're able to do that. But that's what we focus on, very strictly the quoting process. And it's why I call it a submission management system. It's all based on that. We don't do the policy admin side of things, but that's why everything in our system, we export it as XML. We're very tech friendly when we're working with other third-party companies, and we do have pre-existing setups and integrations with other third-party systems like Nexture and IMS and iEngineering and a lot of other folks. So we're friends with a lot of people in the industry. And so if you have these systems already set up, let's have a conversation about it. And I can let you know if other folks have done that already, and that integration's already built, or if that's something that would need to be done and how we could do it. Other stuff that we have available, I mentioned API a couple times. That's just because that's something that everyone is starting to move towards. If you're confused about what that is, feel free to join the next webinar. Throw some time on my calendar. Be happy to talk to you about what that is. Not as complicated as you might think. Emailed submissions, we still are able to even ingest that. So for let's say if you've got a bunch of agents that are still emailing submissions in and you can't really quite convert them to a smoother process and use this technology, that's okay. We do have the ability to capture those emails as they're coming in, recognize they've got accord forms, pull that data off, and even automatically send them a questionnaire to complete whatever additional questions that you have needed. So again, that's kind of what an underwriter would do, and we can completely automate that process. Again, rate, quote, bind, we can add that in there. We've done hybrid solutions like with Hiscox, where the last part of the process in binding takes them over to the Hiscox Now portal. So if you do have systems in place, I've talked to a lot of folks that actually have that, where they go, yeah, I've got the system over here. I really want to bring agents into it at some point to do billing or to service their policies or whatever it might be. We can still do that. We can take the agent over and create these kind of hybrid workflows, but at least get them the immediate information up front, filter out these submissions, create some level of transparency right up front, distribute your products a little bit better, and then push them in whichever direction you want them to go. And then premium financing. This is definitely something that's a bit newer over the last few years that we've added, where we use Imperial Premium Finance Solutions to administer that in our system. And so that is certainly something that's available for agents. All right. So how do we assist with distribution? This is a huge topic. I think I could probably do an entire webinar just on this, because we do a lot with it, and we didn't used to, and we ended up putting a lot of resources into this. We realized that at first our goal was to just bridge data into whatever existing portal that customer had. When we realized that not a lot of people had them, or they weren't very good, we built our own. And we ended up creating this really wonderful ecosystem where agents go into, they're interacting with all of their different markets, and they wanted to learn more. So we've spent a lot of time and energy trying to understand these agents, trying to understand what they're interested in, and creating a tried and true marketing strategy, which has resulted in about 100,000 manually subscribed agents. They actually go in there, subscribe to our marketing blast. There's stuff that we've been able to do with certain market partners. If you're within our system, we'll often work with you to put out some distribution material, including landing pages and webinars, and we've even done personal outreach, YouTube videos, all kinds of things and especially emails, which we almost have a virtually non-existent spam report or unsubscribe rate. These are folks who really want to hear about new markets in our system. So that's a big thing that we do. We also have a market directory, which I actually had this up. I wanted to show you guys this. One of the questions I get a lot is who we're working with. So feel free to check this out. You don't have to log in or anything. You can just go to appulate.com/market-directory. This will take you to this page here where you can search by any line of business. So if I type in workers' comp, I can select workers' comp, and I can look at all of the different markets that Appulate is currently working with. I wanted to explain this though a little bit just for sake of transparency for you guys. You'll notice that these will say Appulate, web link, or e-submission. It will only be these three. And to kind of, this is why I showed you those workflows, because there's an important distinction between these. First of all, agents use Appulate's site for free. So there's no cost at all for them to use our system. The MGA carrier wholesaler would actually license it, the one with the program quoting the business, builds it out with us. So anybody who's done that shows up as standard. It's just available for them to use at no cost. You are essentially in network. Appulate means that they're all within our system and they never leave our system, which is what I was talking about before. E-submission is more of our A to X product, where we move data from our system into your system. And by system, I mean the agent-facing portal. So that's what e-submission is. Both of these, we've created integrations with these companies' programs. WebLink, this is very interesting because if you find your name on this list and you go, well, I don't work with Appulate, it's funny because you might a little bit. WebLink is basically what e-submission is, except for we've built it out using a browser plugin that auto-fills right on your portal. We have so many agents using our system and requesting certain markets that we have already put the resources forward on a lot of larger carriers and MGAs, like BerkeleyNet, for instance, where we've built out the ability for agents to move data directly from our system into that portal and map out their data. It's not perfect, and those are certainly markets we want to work with to have a better integration with. But yeah, if you see your name on that list, we should certainly be talking because you've got enough of your agents actually going through our system into yours. You wouldn't know the difference on your side because it's the same as if they just typed it in. We're just eliminating that manual entry. So let's certainly talk if that's the case. If you have any questions about this, please don't hesitate to reach out. All right. So more statistics for you. I wanted to show some stuff specific to us since our efforts in trying to increase distribution for our partners in our system. This has just elevated us tremendously, and that's where I make that point earlier about, we can have this awesome technology, but if we don't have markets and people aren't aware of them, it's going to be very ineffective. And this proves that. In 2016, we just started to really put a lot of efforts into that type of distribution model and a lot more marketing efforts and resources. Ever since then, it has skyrocketed. On the left-hand side, what this is basically agents that have gone in and manually selected markets that they want to work with or try out during a submission. And that's very cool because these are folks they'll receive an email, they'll see a webinar, they'll say, you know what, I want to work with this market on the next submission I do. They go in and select you, and then you show up every time they do that submission for that particular line of business. And that is absolutely skyrocketed. Same with login activity. So again, since 2016, this was a little bit flatter like it was over here, and this has gone up tremendously. Every year we're breaking our own records as far as login activity, and I attribute this a lot to the partners we work with. And we don't work with everybody. We want to make sure that these are folks that have the same kind of mindset that we do, that are very tech focused, that have good programs, because we want to get into a longer term relationship, and we certainly want these agents to have a good experience. This has brought us to an average monthly submission count about 18,000, and I actually mentioned those earlier, where we've got a very good submission count increase by being within the system, and average new market selection increase is on average about 140% consistently. So here's my contact information, which I also put into the chat box. I'll stop here because we're at the 30-minute mark. I intended on this being kind of a shorter webinar. I wanted to share these statistics with you for those of you who are interested. This is totally free information that I'd love to just share with you, so I'm going to send that out. But if you're curious about seeing the system and how it functions and have questions, let's certainly schedule some time. Or feel free to go ahead and ask some questions in the question box. You should have a little dashboard on the left that you can ask a question, and I'll be happy to answer that. And if you do have time and you want to stick around to see a demo, I'd be happy to show you what these workflows look like. Just let me know in the chat box, and we can definitely make that happen. So I'll give you guys a little bit of time to do that. Okay, somebody said they would like to see that A to X. Okay, great. So let me do that. I'll pull up an Accord form here. All right, so you should see this Accord form. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to submit this directly into a market portal that's got their own agency-facing portal and use the Appulate bridge to do that. So all I have to do is just hit print. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll select Appulate as my print driver, hit print. It will automatically bring in my login credentials, so I can hit send. And at this point, it's going to bring up a specific page where it's going to ask me which line of business. Hit continue. And in this case, I'll submit this to Arrowhead. For techie folks, let me show you this. You're gonna like this. This is the XML that we send over. So if you guys ever need a sample of this, or you want to see what we do, this is how all of this data comes across, so that when I do hit send, it'll just validate this. I'll give it 1 second. Hit click here, and it should allow us to go right in, automatically log in, and map out all that data. Done. It's already all here, and now that agent can go right through your system like they normally would, complete anything that's required, and finish this for a quote. So that's exactly the way that process looks. Since I'm here, I'll show you the other one, which is basically the Appulate system. Similar kind of process here. And this time, we're not going to go directly to that. We're going to go right into the Appulate interface. Okay, and they are able to select different lines of business, which is pretty cool. So I'll go right into Appulate. This is, I would say, the default for most people. Most people don't send it the way that I just showed you. They'll go into the system a lot of times to kind of track and store a lot of their insured information, so they can see all of their insured, all of the policies they're working on, quotes, activity reports. Everything is user and timestamp, so they can check that out, select various markets, and run different kind of reports right within the system. So I call it a submission management system. It's kind of a cross between a quoting and rating platform, and also like a CRM type of thing here. And what all they have to do is select you as a market. So what I'll do is I'll select Westlake GA, my fake wholesale market here. And right away, what you'll see is as soon as I click a market, I get this, which tells me right away if it's been accepted, declined, or needs manual underwriting. In this case, it's kind of an older Accord form, so I can go in here and fix this. And I like to leave it this way so you can see these mistakes I've left on here and how we can respond to that right away. As soon as I fix that, it gives me a green A ready to submit. It's also given me rating information, which I can show an instant rating indication. We've built that out for a ton of different markets. And let's see what this one's all about. We've got, FEIN has already been reserved. So I can also block multiple submissions. I'm going to change this. Now it's accepted again. And let's say I'll select something like AmTrust, because what I want to show you is also, as soon as I select a market, it guides my questionnaire at the bottom as well. So now this is actually an orange or yellow A, and this is telling me, hey, this is good. This meets our criteria for an appetite guide. However, we still have a number of questions that need to be answered. So please go ahead and do that before you submit. And I can go through here and answer these questions. So one of the things I'll show you is I've got 2 underwriting questions now. So I can go down, find that, and it's going to tell me exactly what's required with that red asterisk, just like this. and I can just answer those questions and move forward. But watch this. I'm going to add a location information here for location 2, and I will add nurseries to that. And what you're going to see is that immediately since I've done that, it's going to ask several other additional questions. So let me just put in some extra information here. Now, if I go back up, the underwriting now has 6 questions. So this is really cool because if you have situations like this where if somebody puts something in and now they've got to complete a supplemental, this gives them the complete transparency and ability to see exactly what's going to be required without having to guess or go back and forth with an underwriter who's reacting exactly the same way this is. So I can go through and now answer these kind of questions so I can get a quote. So that's really it. I mean, it's really just that. Everything in the background is being automatically completed, any kind of forms. If there's a, let's see here, like a, oh, hang on a second. Let me go up here to edit. If you have a specific form that you guys use, we can also build that in. So something like this, and all of that's being completed on the back end. So if you do want all of this completed, we're able to do that. Like I said, instead of having them fill out, there's 12 questions on the front, maybe I only need 2 of these answered or just several, and we can completely build that in. Loss history can be uploaded in here, documents, notes, all activities tracked. So on your side also, you'll have an interface just like this where you can track all activity from the agents that you send these requirements to. So if you do have some questions that you need to ask, or you do have requirements in here that haven't been completed yet, you can reach out to that agent, let them know. Once they fill that in, you'll be notified, you'll be able to see all that activity. And also you can see who's done what when. So let me open that up. So right there, I could come in the next day, I could see who's done what, if they've issued a quote, if the underwriter's done anything on this. Everything is completely tracked in this system, both on the agent side and on the market side as well. So it's almost the exact same kind of process on both sides, which is great. There's a lot of consistency here. And so then, of course, they can hit submit, and then whatever your workflow is after that point, if they need to go through an appointment process, if they need to sign things, if they can submit to bind, get an instant quote, whatever it might be, we can take them through exactly what that process is. If we need to take them outside of the system and go somewhere else, we can do that. Really, anything is possible within this, which is really cool because the bones of this are almost identical every single time. It's very, very consistent. This creates a level of standardization that really doesn't exist anywhere else. And I think agents are absolutely attracted to that. So any questions about any of the data today or this interface that you guys would like to see? I am just checking out this question box. Feel free to as well. You can put that in the chat. Okay, I don't think I see any questions in here right now. Trying to just refresh this. No, I don't think I see anything. Or you could feel free to add that in the chat because, yeah, I'm not seeing anything come into the question thing. I hope that that's working properly. I did get that one, but I'm not seeing anything in there. And this thing has been acting a little bit funny. So if you did ask a question and I'm telling you I don't see anything, put that in the chat box as well to let me know, or reach out to me directly and we can certainly schedule some time to look at some things. I think a lot of the stuff is very, very specific to what you guys are doing, what kind of systems you have and your workflows. So I would love to connect with you afterwards. I'll send everybody an email with the slide deck from today. And of course, you'll get my contact information, but I would love to talk to you guys. I appreciate your time so much today. I hope this was informative. And if there's anything I can help you with, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great rest of your week and weekend and stay safe.